Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Vezedes. I'm a product manager at Google on a product called Cloud Interconnect. Today we have four speakers that are going to be discussing how they integrate with our recently announced Partner Interconnect product. Tomorrow at 11:40, we'll be doing a more in-depth session on the specific interconnect products on hybrid networking. So if you're enjoying this session, please join us tomorrow at 11:40 for that session. Our first speaker today is Karun Malhotra. He is a Director of Product Management on NetBond at AT&T. Please welcome Karun.
Hi, welcome, and thank you all for taking some time out to listen to what we have to talk about and see how networking is a key component in your cloud strategy. So just want to level set to begin with, right? This is nothing new. All of you are aware. All the analysts out there give their reports and metrics. Cloud continues to grow. The investment in cloud grows from a customer and cloud provider perspective. Security remains at the top. But really what I wanted to highlight here is, over the last several years, the conversation has really shifted from, why the cloud and how, to how many clouds are you connecting to, and how do you work between those clouds and in a hybrid cloud strategy. So if you look across, IDC, Gartner, all the other analysts, and read through all the reports, really you can summarize it across four variables that you see here, right? Security and performance are what gets talked about the most, but really simplicity and cost are key drivers from a business perspective as you migrate wherever you are in your cloud journey, as you migrate and pivot as trends change, as customer needs change. And so I'm going to highlight those four areas across the presentation. So I just want to give quick background on AT&T's network, right? It's the prime value that's brought to the table here, obviously a global network. We work through a number of providers. We have more than 200 petabytes of data streaming through our network each day, right? A very large capital investor, bringing fiber to businesses around the country. So now I want to jump into your options, right? As you look to connect to the cloud, you have a variety of options. The internet's there, right? It gives you, through some encryption tunnels, you can get a level of security, but you're still susceptible to some of the security threats such as DDoS. Also have a level of performance, but not guaranteed, right? You're, again, susceptible to the equipment and best effort of the internet. And what really chimes in here as well is, again, cost and the simplicity, right? You can get this set up, but you may have some fixed commitments and bandwidth requirements that you may not be able to easily change. Now, taking it a step further, and if you build out private connectivity, your performance and security is greatly increasing, right? Just by getting off of the internet. Now, again, the key here is cost efficiency and simplicity. If you want to build this out, you're going to have to over-provision, right? You need to plan for growth. So you don't want to put in a small bandwidth. You want to be able to add where you think you might grow and plan for that. So you need over-provision, you need redundancy, you need to get all the resources to configure, manage, get equipment set up in these locations. And then, of course, we want to connect in regions across the country and across the globe. You now have to kind of exponentially build towards that. So as AT&T approached this area, we really looked across those four areas and how can we meet customer needs and demands based on their business speed. And so what we built out is NetBond for cloud. We've pre-provisioned redundant 10 gig circuits to numerous cloud providers around the world, with Google Cloud, or in San Jose, in Chicago, and in Ashburn. And what this allows the customers to do is not have to plan so far ahead and make commitments to get this connection and security and performance and reliability. You can work through us. We've done API integration and use SD-enabled architecture and orchestration on the back end to allow for seamless provisioning to Google Cloud literally within minutes, right? So you don't have to plan this ahead of time. If you're ready to go, you log into the portal and you get started, right? And as your growth moves across, you can easily flex. You can start at 10 megabits per second and move all the way up into multi-gig bandwidth needs, again, within minutes, right? You don't have to wait, put in orders, and go through that process. And really tying into the global AT&T network, this really allows any IoT endpoint any remote office, remote worker, regional offices, co-location data centers, everything that connects into the network can traverse and connect to your cloud seamlessly. So this is an area I wanted to highlight a little bit is, similar to Google's model, we approached this space with the customer in mind. And so we really worked across all the verticals and industries and every size customer and asked, what are your needs? How are you migrating? How are you moving? How are you growing? And of course, the needs vary, right, across the verticals and across different size companies. But really, we looked at innovation and developing into the platform and creating features to allow for the customer to be flexible as they grow. So I want to highlight in management space, we have a simple, intuitive website where you can log in and manage and see reporting, set up alerts, all that great stuff. But a lot of customers are using, a custom platform where they manage their cloud workloads as well as the network. They may have a third party, and so we API-enabled all of the service and user management. So we have tons of APIs that allow you to do everything you can within the portal. From a performance perspective, yes, we're off internet and it's inherent in the infrastructure, but we also have service level agreement across 4 metrics, right? Jitter, latency, data delivery, and service availability. So we're not just saying we're really good, we back it up. We also allow customers to prioritize traffic, right? If you're using, maybe connections to back up data at certain intervals, you have video conference calls going over those same links, customers were asking us, we want to be able to prioritize this traffic, and we allow you to tag those packets. We also went in our architecture, we had from certain verticals such as healthcare requests for we still need better performance. And so we looked at it, and again, we've heard a lot about multi-cloud over the last couple days. And really, customers were asking, I'm moving, I have data stored here, I have analytics through here, my sales, SaaS products are somewhere else. So what we did is, instead of routing all that traffic from that peering location back to the customer's network or data center, and then back out to the third cloud, we inherently route all traffic to the nearest router, right? So if you have some workloads in Los Angeles and others up in the northwest, and let's say your data center's in Chicago, you don't have to traverse halfway across the country and back over. It'll just hit the local router and move on. From a security perspective, we also got a lot of customer requests of, I want to add additional layers of security, right? If there's any malicious activity in the cloud, how do I protect my network and vice versa? So we allow for customers to drop in tens of appliances in between, whether it's for performance or security. So firewalls, IDS, IPS, WAN accelerators, anything you can really think of. We allow 1 gig, 10 gig ports to allow you to bring in what you need and manage all that traffic between your network and the cloud. And then again, hitting on customer experience, right? We really wanted to make sure it was simple and seamless and working easily with the customer's needs. So we provide a white glove provisioning treatment. Essentially, we'll walk you through it, right? It's a real simple click-through process. You can do it by yourself within minutes, but some customers are still not comfortable or they don't have the expertise. We'll jump in and help you get everything set up and running. So another piece a lot of customers look at is kind of have a hybrid cloud use case, right? I have either some systems that I already have in local data centers, or maybe I have lots of workloads there and want to migrate some, but I want to leave some there. So how do we build across that? So really leveraging our co-location partners and our own IDCs, and as well as our data centers, and using AT&T MPLS network, we can bridge that gap and really provide from a single provider your end-to-end connectivity from a hybrid use case or straight cloud use case, really, again, in a global standpoint. And so one kind of example I really wanted to highlight, this came up recently. There was a large home automation company. They have thousands of end devices, and they were routing. They had their data aggregation and rules engines in 2 data centers. One was in San Jose, one was in Atlanta. And they were using a cloud provider for storage and analytics and that type of stuff. And so they were not getting the performance they needed. They were using a mix of private connectivity as well as internet connectivity, and they had some major needs, a big shift in their strategy, and they wanted to move fast. So they came to us, said, can you do this? We need it in 3 weeks. So with our solution, with our network, and with NetBond, we had connectivity to those IoT solutions as well as the cloud providers. We went back to them and said, yeah, we can get you up and running today. right? So obviously, we work at the speed of your business, right? As your needs change, we can then flex and pivot accordingly. Right, so really to tie this all together, going back to the 4 components, right? Security, right? Being off internet, we have additional levels of security, but we also, again, based on your needs, we allow to add additional layers of security, and we continually build within our network as well. We have our own kind of virtualized functions. You can add in some managed firewall services. You can add in your own white box, right, and spin up VNFs as needed. From a performance perspective, right, we're SLA backed. Again, allow you to add more, and we continually look at our architecture to see how can we make those improvements and really meet your needs as your company grows. But really, the 2 things I focus on are simplicity and cost efficiency, right? Wherever you are on your cloud journey, we can help step in and get you going today, right? You don't need to make a big plan and architect all these things out. Just log in, set it up, start using it. You don't need it the next day, disconnect it. Right? There's no commitment, there's no long-term kind of things to tie you down. Let's get started, let's keep moving, and let's work at your speed. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. And up next is Brian Lilly. He is the Chief Product Officer of Equinix. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, I really wish they make these podiums shorter. I don't know what it is, but so I'm going to talk to you. We've each got 10 minutes, and I'm going to try and really give you a snapshot of the work we've been doing with Google on the Partner Cloud Interconnect. We've been working with Google for several years now, even back to layer 3 peering, and so it's just been a wonderful relationship, and it's come quite a long way. So I'm going to introduce you to ECX, which is the Equinix Cloud Exchange, and it really started as Equinix Cloud Exchange and only recently became the Fabric. This Cloud Exchange started as a way really to offer efficient connectivity for customers like Google to multiple enterprises. And you can see the features are, it's on demand, it's private networking, it's private network connectivity. It's completely software defined and API enabled, and I'll show you that in a minute. And it's available in 30 plus metros. So we're in 52 metros around the world, and Google's with us in 21. Well, with the launch of Fabric, which really is us interconnecting our data centers together, we've now extended the reach with Google to an additional 10 metros. So it's 31 altogether. And so you can get multiple connection options to Google Cloud. You can do private direct connect, or you can do it over the Cloud Exchange Fabric. You also, though, can connect to your own infrastructure. So if you're in multiple sites, you actually can connect to yourself across those metros. And whether that's for primary, DR, et cetera, or finding somebody else within the ecosystem that you want to connect to. And that's really, in a nutshell, what Cloud Exchange is. So where the Google Partner Interconnect is located is here. You can see the multiple locations. These are the 21. If you overlay where the interconnect exists. And then the Fabric is how we've connected our sites together. We're live in both the US and EMEA. We'll be live in the next few weeks, interconnecting our data centers in Asia. So APAC will go live. As you can see, it's dotted because it's not general available yet. And then what you'll see is in Q4, we'll be connecting the world, and that's underway right now. And this really, to us, is a way that our customers, our end customers, primarily enterprises, have come and said, to us as a partner to Google, they've said, we want to reach the Google Cloud. And in some cases, it was right in the data center they were in, and we have 10,000 customers. In other cases, it wasn't where they were located, and this Fabric allowed them to connect seamlessly to it. Now, in certain locations, and I'll say today it's 8, and you can see Hong Kong has an asterisk there because it's coming soon. It'll be 9 soon, where you're within 2 milliseconds of the Google Cloud platform. Sub 2 milliseconds implies that if you're running your workloads at Equinix, you actually can really be connected to the Google Cloud as if it was a part of your own infrastructure. So you get the benefits, and I've personally spoken with Urs about this, is that when you think about workloads residing and the power of sort of Google in particular, when you think of analytics, you know, if you're running your application for whatever reason on your premise, and that premise happens to be with us, you actually can have your data resident in Google or vice versa. If you don't want your data there, you can have your data on your premise and actually use the applications and tools in Google to run seamlessly over that fabric. This is significant and gives really the best of both worlds. And we've seen several companies, organizations, customers take advantage of these connectivity options. Now, for the other, so I said there are 21 locations specifically. For the other 12, you're still within, in some cases, 5, 10, 15, 20 milliseconds. But this is actually sub 2 milliseconds. Now, what we've spent a lot of time on is the developer community. So I don't know how many in the audience are developers, but we've really wanted to API enable the entire platform. And we're seeing significant uptake. So we just launched recently, this is our third iteration of the developer portal. So if you go to developer.equinix.com, you can have access to the developer experience. You can subscribe to the APIs. You can see them. All the contracts are there, and the documentation are there. And to give you an example, these are some of the APIs that are available. Now, Cloud Exchange is by far the most leveraged APIs that we have. And what we're seeing now is I don't know if it's a combination of customers or partners in here. But if you're a partner, you can actually embed these APIs into your offer. And we're starting to see we just did a webinar on this 2 weeks ago with Infinidat, who has included and embedded these APIs into their offer. And it's, again, on a hybrid cloud, a hybrid multi-cloud. And if I go back for 1 second, there's one note on here that just got added, and I really want to highlight this. We use Kubernetes to orchestrate our Docker environment. With this GKE on-prem, you actually can run that on-prem Kubernetes environment, Kubernetes engine, in your cage, in your deployment, and use that to orchestrate across multiple clouds. And so we are just now, with that announcement, we're just now looking at how do we extend our existing Kubernetes deployment and actually use that to orchestrate our workloads both on-prem and across in Google, where we run today a number of workloads, in particular if you think about a data center is a big thing and it's full of things. And so we stream data out of our data centers. It's a very, very large IoT use case. And we're using Google and the analytics in Google to run that environment. And we expect to run more now that we have this new solution. So we're pretty happy about that announcement. So if I go back to the APIs, these APIs are available today. You can configure them in minutes. It's an on-demand platform. And I think, like you just heard Karun say, in this sort of, and I don't have today a demonstration to show you. However, Paul Mason, if you could raise your hand. Paul's our lead solution architect on this. He did a session in the floor where he demonstrated in about 90 seconds, he set up a connection to US East 4, which is in Ashburn. And in about, like I said, about 90 seconds, set up the connection, transferred 8 gigs of data in approximately 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds. And he can demonstrate that again for you if you want to swing by. So this is all SDN enabled, and as Karun said, you can set this up for minutes, days, hours, weeks, et cetera. It's a very, very nice way to manage your connections to the cloud. And so we have several use cases. These are just a couple. We have today over 130 connections through the Google Partner Cloud Interconnect. We have, in some cases, we have a very large retail provider that is using Cloud Exchange to route between Google Cloud environments for redundancies purposes, and this is to achieve their SLA. We have another customer who wanted to actually move data and workloads out of another CSP over to Google, and Google actually brought us this lead and asked us if we could help them solve this problem, and we actually moved those workloads. And then we have one ourselves that I've already mentioned, which is how we're using it to run our own IoT analytics, which really leads us to PUE prediction, which we're getting pretty good at. And so I would just say visit our website. There's one URL that's not on here. I would strongly recommend. It's free and it's really good. It's called IOA-KB, Interconnection Oriented Architecture Knowledge Base, ioakb.com. You can log in there and there's free blueprints on how to build your own, basically network diagrams for how to build a hybrid multi-cloud, and with Google prominently in there. So I think I'm out of time. I'm out of my 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Brian. And next up is Matt Simpson, VP of Cloud Product at MegaPort. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, San Francisco. How refreshing it is to meet everyone and be here rather than, I guess, in Vegas. I love Vegas, but I'm sure everyone in this room has been too many times this year with certain events. So, MegaPort. So there's some commonalities with some of these presentations with both AT&T and Equinix, and that is giving your customers choice in getting to Google. And I guess with GCI, it's and the partners that we're presenting here is the extending the reach of Google and bringing Google to you. Today I'm going to talk about MegaPort. So MegaPort is a global software-defined network, and we're in the business of interconnecting data centers. One of the biggest problems and one of the biggest questions that we do get from customers is, I'm in one particular data center, but I'm looking to access certain services from another on-ramp location. How am I going to get my connections and my direct access between those two parties? So what we've done over the last few years is built a layer 2 network across 221 data centers, and we're data center agnostic. So we work between players like EdgeConneX, Digital Realty, we're in Equinix, we're also in Interaction in Europe. And what that brings is a really rich ecosystem of services, and that's really important when you're looking to access GCP. There's 4,000 data centers out there, so we still are growing. This quarter alone, we built into 21 data centers, so we're continuing to build that network out globally. So the key differentiator between us and, say, a traditional network is we've aligned our business model similar to cloud. There's no lock-in contracts. You can scale on demand, similar to the other partners that presented. And it's rapid, it's fast. Within a few minutes, you'll be able to connect to GCP. And today, I'm actually, pray to the demo gods, I'm going to do a bit of a quick demo for you as well and showcase the portal and give you a scenario of a particular customer use case going from one cloud provider to GCP. So I just want to highlight our network and the reach that we have. So Google, has an extensive backbone. I think there's a couple of hundred points of presence. And congratulations on the recent announcement. I think they're laying a subsea cable between Virginia and Belgium. But beyond that, there's our network as well. So across that, you can scale your bandwidth and you can connect from any of those data centers. So there's 221. But I really also want to highlight the cloud on-ramps as well. So there's 106 cloud on-ramps that we've interconnected with. And it's really important. We're talking about multi-cloud here. And you as a customer looking to get direct access to the best digital technology. so that you can remain agile and that you can remain competitive. Here's a colourful dots, a great map just to highlight our points of presence and where we've interconnected with GCI. So we are available across 10 cities in 20 locations, and you can interconnect at any of those locations today. They're all live. I've also highlighted direct peering. So today is all about getting direct access to your VPCs, but if you're looking to access G Suite or some of those public resources, then you can also interconnect via the direct peering option there too. So how do we deliver the service? And again, I really want to highlight multi-cloud here because I know some of you in the room are probably using other cloud providers and other technology. And how do you actually get access to GCP today? And so on the left-hand side, if we go from left to right, we're looking at our traditional layer 2 service. So a customer would essentially establish a 1 gig or a 10 gig port in any of our data center locations via the portal. Once they cross-connect and provision that interface, the virtual cross-connections or the VLANs to GCP can be stood up in less than a few minutes. And really what we're trying to showcase here is that ability, if you're using another cloud provider, you can actually start using GCP today. And I guess on the bottom here, we've got MegaPort Cloud Router. And I'll go into that in a little bit. I really want to focus on that in a minute. So there's a couple of SLA options that you have with Google. To get the 4 nines of availability, what that looks like on this side is 2 ports interconnected from 2 different data centers, corresponding with 4 VLANs. On the GCI side, you're looking at establishing 4 cloud routers with 4 VLAN attachments. The VXCs, again, is where the flexibility of the service interacts. And you can, on our side, establish from 1 megabit right up to 10 gigabits. And you can change that on the fly. So this year, we actually released a new product. Over the last few years, our customers were coming to us and saying, wouldn't it be great if I could localize my traffic? If I was expanding my business, say I'm in Oz, and I'm looking to tap into North America, but I'm not really interested in establishing space, power, physical network, routers. I was born in the cloud and I'm looking to get access to GCP, but I'm not looking to invest in some of that network infrastructure. And this is MegaPort Cloud Router. It's a private layer 3 capability which allows cloud-to-cloud networking and also enables localized traffic. Again, I'll point out the 106 cloud on-ramps will continue to expand with Google, and that number will grow. And just showcasing that example here. So we have a customer in LA, they might be in media and entertainment. They've got some on-premise infrastructure, say in the Digital Realty facility in LA. They're looking to establish a 10 gig port in LA, and they're connecting traditionally with a VLAN to GCP and AWS. And on the right-hand side, they're looking to expand on the East Coast, but they're not looking to invest in the infrastructure there. So what they can do is establish a MegaPort Cloud Router within a couple of minutes. They could start at 100 meg if they wanted to, and then they could interconnect from AWS to GCP within minutes and start passing traffic over our layer 2 network within a couple of hours. So we're going to flip over. No one use the Wi-Fi. I'm kidding. And I'm going to jump into the portal. Is everyone sort of familiar with GCI establishing it via the Google console? Just raise their hands. There's a couple, not too many. So the first step is you would go into the Google console, you go over to your hamburger, and you'd scroll down into networking, and you would select hybrid connectivity. So There we go. We got hybrid connectivity, and you would select Interconnect. And then you've got two options, dedicated interconnect. So if you're in the same facility as Google, then great. You could do dedicated and you'll get your own 10 gig port. Then you have the GCI partner option. What I've done, just to save a little bit of time, because I know that there's a lot of partners presenting today, I've preloaded one already. And what I've done here is established two cloud routers with two VLAN interconnects. So on the right, I've got my two VLAN interconnects, and sorry for my Aussie slang, I've called it True Blue VLAN 1 with True Blue VLAN 2 against two cloud routers. And these are the Google cloud routers, this is a router mate number 1, and this is a router mate number 2. So I'm going to flip over to the portal. The first step is you would log in, it's web-based, so megaport.al or portal.megaport.com. Anyone can trial this out. You can see pricing. You can also see all of the locations that GCP that we have enabled today as well. So it's like buying a pair of Nike shoes, as I say. You go from left to right, you check it out, and you deploy. So the first step is I would establish an MCR, as I call it, Megaport Cloud Router. And you've got the two options again. Create Megaport, which is going to be if you want to establish a 10 gig port on the A side. And then the Z side is the Google, I guess, location. So here I've already preloaded an MCR. It takes a couple of minutes just to deploy that. I've got my connection in Ashburn in AWS already connected. And what I'm going to do here is just change this and preload and configure my A end. So I'll click onto the VLAN 1, configure BGP, pop in my AS number, which is going to be my MCR AS. And then I'm just going to copy the local router IP and enter that into the IP address space there. Establish BGP on the A end. All right. Google's AS. The local IP is already preloaded for me. Again, similar to the other partners, we've done an API integration. And we've simplified and removed some of that complexity. I will then copy my cloud router prefix. And I'm going to enter that in as well. Click OK. I'm just going to remove that one and apply. What that's going to do is going to push an API call right through to the cloud router and enable that connection. So it does take a couple of minutes. So just to speed up a bit of the time, you'll see that rocket spinning around. I'm probably just going to run straight through, but just want to showcase the ecosystem as well. So with GCP, you're looking at accessing some of the digital technology. But also in here, you can access some of our MSP partners. We've got network service providers. So beyond the data centers that we're in, you can actually interconnect with and do last mile with some of those partners as well. And again, there's a whole marketplace full of different service providers. And that, again, is adding a lot of value to you for your solutions. I'm looking at wrapping up because I'm running out of time. So we'll flip back. Flip back to the slides, if you might. This is DJ. Oh, yes. Awesome. So just to recap, we've got our LA, we've got our physical port. We don't have to do that if we don't want to. We've got a virtual cross-connection connecting to our MegaPort cloud router, which is our virtualized layer 3 capability. And then we have virtual cross-connections between AWS and GCP. We've just popped in our marketplace there if you're looking to access, say, Rackspace or Nutanix. We do have a booth here as well. There's a lot of detail around MCR, and we've got our team in the room as well. So if any questions, again, thanks very much for having us, and on to Verizon.
So next up, Ghassan Siman, who's a distinguished engineer at Verizon on Cloud. Thank you so much, Ghassan.
Oops. All right. Hello. Thank you, everyone, for attending this session. My name is Ghassan Siman. I'm part of Verizon Advanced Technology Group, where I focus on networking solution in general, and for the last couple of years, been focusing on cloud communication. I'm here to talk to you about Verizon Secure Cloud Interconnect, which is Verizon's solution to connect our customer to their cloud partner in general, and to Google Cloud in particular. However, before I start talking about SCI per se, I would like to take a minute or so to position SCI within Verizon portfolio. It doesn't matter today whether you're working on a network, whether you're writing code for Google, you're doing DevOps. We are all working with the ultimate goal of developing and supporting the application that runs the business. In that regard, Verizon has developed a large portfolio of services that is intended to help our customer into the enablement of their application. Whether it's on the networking level with our private IP network or MPLS, our 4G, 5G wireless network, on the connectivity level with Secure Cloud Interconnect itself or our SD-WAN services, in the virtualization layer where a large number of network functionality is being virtualized, the orchestration layer that manage these different virtual instances and help with the migration toward the software-defined network, at the application layer with our APIs and different tools that manage the application, or the security layer that encompass all these services. We have a full digital supply chain that is intended to help you with your application. So Secure Cloud Interconnect is one component of this portfolio, but it works in conjunction with other number of services. So why should you care about Secure Cloud Interconnect, and why should you consider it? You probably heard about all this stuff already from the previous presenters, but from our perspective, we always talk to our customer, trying to understand how their business is shifting, and consequently, how that impacts their need for the network. So what they told us a couple of years ago is, done are the days where fringe applications are deployed into the cloud, or where a couple of engineers are trying to toy with some application into the cloud. Our customers were planning and are today deploying critical applications with very sensitive data. So it's not a surprise that at the top of their list they have security. They want a network that provides the security that's required and necessary to deploy those applications. More interestingly, though, they told us that the network or their environment today is becoming much more flexible and much more dynamic. They need, things are changing at a much faster rate than what it used in the past. So they don't want to have to wait for a few months for a network to be established. They don't want to be cornered with a contract for 2 or 3 years, and they don't want to have their traffic police for a random port speed. They want their network as well to be as dynamic and as flexible as they can what they are doing in the cloud. Now they are deploying critical applications, so they expect the network to provide performance that is predictable, that they can rely on to deploy and support those applications. And manageability is as well very critical for them, so they can understand where the problem is in the network, where there are issues, and how they can fix those very quickly. And as nobody has more money than usual, they want all these features with allowing them at the same time to save on their cost. So that's what we try to achieve with SCI. And how did we do that? So we started with what we have. Verizon has a very large private IP network that provides the security that the customer is looking for, provide the performances with our SLA and class of services, and provide the manageability. What was missing is the connectivity to the cloud operators. So in this particular case, we're showing the example with Google. So what we did, we went to the different location where Google has deployed peering location, and we deployed our own physical router. So we have 2 routers from Verizon. There are 2 routers from Google. We established a pair of 10 gig NNI. So like this, we are providing a redundant connection between our network and Google facilities. So when a network on ours today want to connect to Google, we start by creating an SCI port on our router. We connect it to their private IP VPN network on one side, and through an API that we have with Google, we establish a connection toward their Google project. It's all software driven. It takes a few minutes for the whole connection to be up and running. What we did too is that we extended that connectivity to our wireless network. A large number of our customers are expanding into the wireless domain, either because they are deploying more and more IoT-driven application, maybe they are using their wireless network as a backup to the wireline network. We have gateways today that connect the wireless network to the wireline network. So when they have devices on the wireless network, they can now gain the same connectivity, get access to the same application, to the same set of data as their wireline counterpart. We also moved away a little from the legacy LEC environment or legacy LEC model where you have to order access and port and pay a monthly recurring charges. With SCI, we are adopting the same model as the cloud operators and have you pay for the resources you use, which in this particular case is the amount of traffic that goes through the port. So you're not anymore constrained by a port speed. You can burst up and down based on the need of your application. Now, we took that design and we replicated it into many locations across the globe. This is showing the connection we have with Google only. So for those of you who are familiar with Google operation, you know that Google offers different mode of peerings. Verizon has been a partner with Google on the carrier peering option for many years now. And then as Google has introduced their partner Interconnect, we are deploying a separate set of NNI to support that peering option as well. You can see from the map here that in every region we have 2 or more peering locations, providing you that way with a geographical diversity to access your Google facilities. In the previous slide, I mentioned that SCI is usage-based. So what you can do right now is go and deploy your SCI port at any one of these locations. There is no fixed cost associated with SCI. You're paying for the amount of traffic that goes through the port. So you have the flexibility to deploy your SCI connection at many locations, gain advantage of diversity and proximity to your user. Now, SCI, like many of these services that Verizon support, we have a GUI-based portal for managing and supporting the application. But we've been talking about speed, flexibility, and software-defined network, and you've seen it from the other provider as well. Verizon is working on APIs for all the new services, and SCI is one of those services that's benefiting from that development. So today we have a group of SCI commands that are available for you, and we're working on more for 2018-19. With the SCI, now you can script the behavior that you expect from the network. If you, for example, working with us on management tool for your application, and you determine that your application needs have changed or evolved, you can now automate the change of the network to accommodate the changes that are happening at your application layer. Now, to conclude my presentation, I'm going to go through a quick example of a customer we're working with today. It's a large retail customer that has thousands of stores across the US. They want to decommission their data center and move their application to the cloud, and for that, they decided to partner with Google to host their application. They reached out to us to provide the connectivity between their Google facilities and their store, and for that, we deployed 2 SCI ports, one in San Jose and one in Chicago, providing them like this with the diversity that they need to connect to Google. We extended that connection as well to their distribution fleet, so our wireless network. One of the applications that they're trying to start up with is to track every transaction in their stores so they can know the amount of inventory in each one of these stores. And as a result, they can direct their distribution fleet to the adequate store to ensure that the stores are always adequately stacked. I talked about SCI working with conjunction with other services. So in this particular case, we are hosting for them 2 virtual firewalls, one with each of the SCI port, which will provide them with an additional layer of security and allow them to control better the traffic that's going in and out of their corporate network. Finally, we're working with them on a number of application tools to manage the performance of that application, whether into Google environment, into our network, the wireless network, or their store, so they can quickly determine if there are changes or impact on the performance and what need to do to remedy to this and ensure that they have the performance they are looking for their application. So it's this bundling of all these services. It's that digital supply chain that Verizon is offering to our customer, occasionally partnership with Google, so to help you with your application enablement.